Heather, welcome. Thank you for being here. Just a little bit about you. Heather MacDonald is the founder of Contemplating Life Choices, a coaching and leadership development practice focused on diverse women and mothers who are navigating burnout and career transition. We were literally just talking about burnout and being a mom, and literally just now.
It's so rough sometimes.
It is so rough. Heather historically supports her clients in getting unstuck, making decisions, and taking action towards their goals. You're also the director of consulting services at Pluralsight. You and your team support companies across the Fortune Global 500 to identify and prioritize skills, identify the right mix of content to enable learning, and design scalable and sustainable learning programs and strategies. So prior to joining Pluralsight, you were a VP of Strategy, Change, and Communications for Zions Bancorp. And you and I, that's where we met. You architected systems and strategies that address the needs, motivations, and barriers to the organization's long-term growth and success, including the Women in Tech program, which is a huge program here in Utah. Were you there when it first started? Because it's a newer.
It had started before me, so somebody else had got it off the ground, but it needed a little bit of a revival, I guess.
That's right. Okay. Workforce of the Future Initiative and Employee Recognition and Engagement Programs. Additionally, you're a global speaker and workshop facilitator, Bodhi Yoga certified, yoga teacher, and Embrace Change coaching certification recipient. That's really cool.
I can't stop myself.
So you're here to talk to us a bit about how women, specifically women of color, but just women in general, can connect into their inner wisdom. And I feel like it's around this age group where it's like mid-age, I would say 40s. As soon as, and I've had this, friends on friends that talk about as soon as they turn 40, just like your business, they are literally contemplating life choices. What am I doing? Am I living my purpose? Something feels off. It's just something happens. And so it's usually around that time. But in your work, what age for you did you realize, okay, I need to make a change in my own life? Or maybe you started questioning a little bit about your journey. And then how did that lead to you working with women and trying to help them connect with their own inner wisdom?
Yeah, I think it was probably around that 40-ish mark. You know, it's like early in your career, you're trying to prove yourself, you're hustling, you're working really hard. You're just trying to be like, okay, how can I move up? How can I get to that next level? And then at some point if you're lucky and, you've done some work and, the circumstances have aligned, like you've got the house, you've got, the kids, like things are going well. But then you start to go, okay, wait, like, is this everything? Is this everything I want to do? Yeah. Is this the path I want to go on? And for me, it was actually at the start of COVID. So in that job at Zions, as soon as I got promoted to that VP role was the day we sent everyone home for the pandemic.
Oh,
so it was like, congratulations, you're promoted and goodbye to a while. And we all thought, 2 weeks, we'll be back. Right. No big deal. Right. Wrong. Didn't work out that way. And over that time period, it was like, we started to watch the toll on the community, on people that we loved, on ourselves as we got sick. And I think I started to have these awakening moments of like, wait a minute, like all the things that we were told would work, that did work in your career, stopped working. The things that made a difference no longer mattered when we were fully remote, when the game was changing, when what was relevant mattered. And I think I just started to have this realization of like, I don't think it has to be like this. I don't think it has to be this way. And I started to think about like, is this really the path I want to go for the rest of my life? Like, is this where I want to spend my time? And I think like, like with kids, like you get to that point where it's like, okay, I don't mind working. I like contributing in that way, but also I only have so many, summer times and winter breaks with my kids at the age that they're at. And I didn't want to keep missing out because, mom can't take more vacation because I've already used my PTO, or, I can take some vacation here, but not there. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to sit on the iPad all day and play games with your friends. Like, I just started to think about like, how can this be different? And I'd heard, like you said, from so many people who were like, I have like every marker of success, like what success should look like, but I'm just not happy. And I was like, there's got to be something about this and there's got to be a way around it because I don't think we need to live like this.
Was it like, what did it feel? Like, was it just not fulfilled? Like everything seemed like, because I know you, you're very career driven. You're very leader. You're very proactive. And so I can't imagine you feeling unfulfilled as an external person, just not knowing, seeing you shine, seeing you speak, seeing you be a part of leading teams, leading organizations. So what was it that was just sort of like, am I truly happy, or is there, what was missing, I guess?
Yeah. I think part of it was like, I had the things, like I had a good title, I had decent pay, I had great colleagues, I had great bosses that I worked for. I mean, you also had a mix. Like I also had bad bosses along the way and jobs where I felt like I was underpaid. But I think what happened is post the major part of COVID, when that hit, a few other things happened in my life where I started to realize there was something more that I wanted to do than just the work I was doing. Like I absolutely love the work I get to do. I love helping other people learn, helping organizations figure out how to develop their people. Like that is life fulfilling for me, because I'm one of those people who I took a weird career path, and that was what helped me be successful, was all of the stops along the way that didn't feel like they made sense. And I wanted that door to open for other people who didn't have a traditional, go to school, get a degree, get a job, work 25 to life at a company, and great, you're set up for success. I want to open doors for people who are like, hey, I worked, 3 jobs, and maybe I only finished community college, and maybe I'm just trying to work my way up to sustain my family. I want to help those folks. And I think at some point, probably in the last couple of years, I realized so much of what needs to change is systems issues. It's stuff that's bigger than me. It's bigger than the companies that I work for. And I think some of it is bigger than what people are thinking about work as now. And part of me just feels like I want to poke the bear. But also when you work for a company, it's like you can only push so hard, because also it's like, well, intentionally or not intentionally, you represent the company that you work for when you're working for somebody.
Right.
So it's like you get to that point of like, I want to keep doing this work. I want to make an impact, but also my impact, I don't want it to just be today. Great, we ran a learning program, people learned something. I want it to be something that opens doors generationally for my kids, for your kid, like for everyone who's coming behind us.
Yeah, so you wanted something, you just wanted more.
Yes, I want the next level of it.
Next level of it. You mentioned your mom, you work with moms. What are some of those, what are the challenges that moms that are working right now? What are some of their challenges that you're seeing and you're hearing about?
I think especially with the return to work or return to office mandates, I think so much of that is negatively impacting moms and also, parents, any kind of working parents, caregivers. But often it ends up being a mother. They're not considering the implications of asking people to come back from a remote first policy into an office policy. Suddenly you're having to not only deal with, okay, I've got to figure out coordination for my children, for my pets. Maybe I've got elder care, responsibilities going on. It's a physical cost, like money out the door for daycare kind of a thing. But then also it's a scheduling cost. It's like, how much earlier do I have to get up to get the kids ready, to get them fed, to get them to daycare before I get in my car and commute to work, to do my job, to maybe have to leave early to pick them up because you can only leave your kids in daycare for so long every day. I think there's that. I also think there's the biases that come with just kind of being a woman and a mother in the workplaces. Oh, are you really committed? Maybe we don't want to send you to that conference because, you're a mom, you've got kids.
I mean, that still happens, I guess.
Yes, it still happens. Well, and the thing is, they don't even think to ask the mom, like, are you good? Do you have care? Because for some moms, it might be a thing where they're like, I cannot travel. It's not something I can do right now. And that's great. But other women are like, well, wait, I have a husband, a spouse, a partner. I have, grandparents that can take care of my kids. I want these opportunities. But when we don't ask and we just assume, it holds these women back from those opportunities to potentially be meeting with clients, to be meeting with other senior executives. And unfortunately, those things literally still exist to this day.
So with you being a mom, how have you been able to balance? So, I mean, you have your coaching, you've got your career at Pluralsight, and then you have your mom, you're running your home. There's like all these different aspects. How have you been able to, I mean, I guess, are you managing it? How do you feel? Where you at?
Like existential dread all the time.
Because I assume that those are other factors too, because, there's a point in a woman's life who, if they have kids, if they're taking care of their parents, it's usually around their 40s where the caretaking role and responsibility gets kicked up a couple notches. And so how then have you balanced all of that for yourself?
Mm-hmm. I would say it's definitely not a balance. It's a choice. It's every day, sometimes minute by minute, it's deciding what am I going to put my focus on in this moment. And I'm not perfect. And some days I just want to go to bed because I need a reset because this day was bad. But a lot of times it's how can I be present in the moment that I'm at with whoever's in front of me? How can I still contribute in ways that are meaningful, that give me enough kind of space to live my life as I want to live it? And some days it's literally acknowledging like, I'm tired, nothing will happen today. And you take a nap or you just sit there and you veg out on the couch, and that's totally fine. But it's going back and forth of, you know what, sometimes my kids really need my attention and I need to be present for them and shut down work and shut down other things. And other times they're just happy, you know, watching some TV. And like, yes, I don't want them on TV all the time, but also,
I mean, TV raised me, so I'm good with that.
I mean, seriously, I was like, we were raised out in the streets. So it was like, get out the house. I'll see you later. But yeah, it's just, I think it's about learning that you will never be 100% in all of the places because you can't. There's a limit to that. And also like you have to take care of yourself. At some point I learned if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of my kids. And that's what scared me. Like, yeah, work is work, but work will replace me if something happens to me. My kids, if anything happens to me, they can't replace me. I'm their mom. Like that's that. So taking care of myself is also a priority of I need to get good sleep. I need to sometimes say, you know what, would I like to stay up and work on, you know, one more thing for my business? Sure. But also, do I need sleep to be able to survive for them and for everyone else the next day? Yeah, so sometimes it's got to wait.
Yeah, so you've kind of learned how to pace yourself a bit because you're a go-getter.
Mm-hmm.
This I know, and there's many, and so this kind of leads me into this for women of color. There is this expectations that they're go-getters, and so when you think about them in the workforce, there's this pressure that you have to be able to show up in all the places. Otherwise, it's a big indictment on who you are as an individual. And then also all the stereotypes on top of that. So how have you been able to take a step back and be like, yeah, I'm going to just let things fall through the crack, or maybe I'm not going to stay up additionally just so that I can show up for my kids, or I can show up for places that it matters to me. What's going on in your mind to reconcile that? Because the pressure for women of color has been so, I mean, it's just for women in general to show up in perfection, but for women of color, there is no space for error. So when there is things that fall through the crack, or when there is a sort of, I'll push this off, there's quite a bit of judgment that comes from it. So like, how did you get to a point where it's like, whatever, you know, I'm just going to, or have you gotten to that point?
I think I'm a lot closer to it than I've probably ever been in my life. It's there's still part of me that's the people pleaser that wants to say yes to everything. There's the perfectionist part of me that's like, I should do it all. I should make sure it's amazing. I should give it 125%. And then there's like the overthinker that's like, but what if? What if I say no to this thing? What is that going to do for my career? What is that going to do for something else? I think the thing that helped me get beyond those things, because that's like my kind of trifecta of things that impact my whole life. I think what it was is understanding that I'm always already at 110%. When I'm doing something, it's already 110%. So I'm already locked in. What I had to realize is I need to better prioritize everything in my life, like what actually matters to move me forward. And I need to get okay saying no to certain things. So especially as a working woman, you have to start to understand, okay, what are the things that make an impact to your career and to your boss's career? Those are the things that you need to prioritize, the stuff that is moving the work forward, that is getting you and them wins so that you can win together and kind of move up that chain if that's where you want to go. Yeah. And then part of it is like, stop saying yes to, oh yeah, I'll take the notes. Oh yeah, I'll, do the birthday party. Great if it means something to you and you happen to have time. But most of the time we're fooling ourselves saying, oh, I've got time, I can do it. I mean, early in my career, yes, like those kind of opportunities matter because it got me visibility. I was in different spaces. For a time, maybe it matters to you. Great. No judgment on that. Yeah. But I think once you're well established in your career, you have to start figuring out, where do I spend my time that it has the most impact and where do I start pushing back? Because half the time it's just, leaders will throw around ideas. Oh, I think this, I think that. That doesn't mean they actually want you to do anything with that. Sometimes it's just information. And if we don't take the time to say, well, tell me more. Do you want me to do something with this? Do you want me to, turn something around? Half the time the leader's going to be like, oh no, I just thought that was cool. FYI, here you go. Like in case it's helpful. Yeah. Or we'll think, oh, the executive wants me to put together a deck and you work all night. This happened to me. You work all night on something that's, 25 pages and they're like, I just really needed like 2 paragraphs. I could send in an email. But because I didn't qualify and say, well, what do you need this to look like? What's the deliverable got to look like? Just because they're your boss or your boss's boss or the CEO doesn't mean you can't ask questions. They want you to be successful as much as you want to be successful. And asking good questions and prioritizing the work helps you not get buried under stuff that literally they were like, oh no, that was just a cool, here you go, read it when you have time.
I just, that example, and I was just thinking about the many times when I was working within an organization where I would just go above and beyond for something, and it wasn't never really even about. It was just proving myself, really. I mean, that's all it was. Yep. It wasn't even like this is going to move the organization forward, or maybe there would be some game changing things, but like for me, it was like I'm gonna put this out, and they're gonna see it, and then they're gonna think I'm amazing.
Yep.
And I need that because I'm usually overlooked, right? And so I remember doing above and beyond work, hardly ever gets recognized. And then I would get butthurt because it was just like I just put in all this effort. Yeah. And then, I mean, there was a specific organization where I would just do a lot of work and I wouldn't get recognized for it, but I would go home and internalize it as if it was something about me. I'm not good enough. I can't get this right. I'm not like, and I feel like that's a very common thing for women of color. That's why they get to burnout so quickly. It's because of this. I got to continuously prove myself. And then when that hasn't been recognized, then there's just sort of like, oh, not only did I overcompensate, but I completely broke down I broke down what I know about myself because externally I wasn't getting the validation that I needed. And I feel like that is just how the system is built. So I don't think that is just because women of color have low self-esteem and whatever. It's not because of that. It's because systems are, they want that.
Yeah. They want you to overwork.
They want you to overwork so that, or an overfunction so that, I mean, they get so much out of it. Maybe they don't use that deck.
Yep.
But they might later on.
Yep.
And it may go to somebody else who's going to have their whole name on it. And I mean, like, I feel really passionate about this because I myself have gone through it. But I've had conversations with so many women of color, and they're so brilliant. But I see them breaking themselves down because they feel one burnt out or that they don't feel enough within an organization. So then I encourage them to start their own businesses. But even then, you're still with your clients, you're trying to prove yourself. So what do you advise women to find sort of their inner voice when all these things are going on? Yeah. When the questioning happens?
I think a big piece of it is getting to know yourself well enough to know what matters to you and what doesn't. Because it's that space of like, if we're constantly seeking external validation, you're never going to find it because the bar is always going to raise. And you've seen this, like you do all of the stuff, you overperform, you're exceptional in everything, but then promotion time comes around, but you're not ready. Like you lack business acumen, like you're not quite leadership material. And they give you these fluffy excuses of why you're not getting promoted, why you're not getting the bonus that basically amount to like, we just don't want to give it to you, but we can't tell you that. So we're going to blame it on, business acumen, a lack of business acumen. It's like, well, what does that mean? And I've pressed people in my past to be like, well, tell me, how do I develop that? What am I missing? If there's something specific I should work on? Oh no, you're doing great. You're amazing. We're just not going in that direction right now. And then they hire 3 people with the title you wanted to do something else. And you're like, is it me? Is it this place? Like what's happening here?
I remember you talked to me a little bit about like education, that being such a thing for even just you and others, like having that degree is what was going to get you, even though you had the skill set and above and beyond skill set, but it was the degree that mattered. And that, I mean, what did that do for you when, if you didn't have the degree, we had all this other skill set that was needed, but that was overlooked because you didn't have the degree? Did you feel like, I need to go back to school? Like, how did you, and that was a while ago, but I'm curious to know how that, because lots of women are in that space too.
Totally. Yeah, I think about it all the time is like, oh, should I just go back? Should I get that degree? Should I get that piece of paper? But the thing is, it's like, okay, I've been working for so long that everything that I'm going to learn in those programs, I already am doing. So it's like, do I really want to spend the time away from my kids, the money on a piece of paper? I think what the thing is, again, it's not that I'm broken or I'm the problem. It's our system is only like wired to say, well, I need a piece of paper to tell me like that you're good enough for this job. And it's like, okay, well, we just haven't gotten to a space where we can actually qualify people in a way that's meaningful and can do anything beyond like, oh, but you got straight A's and you went to Harvard and you've got this degree. It's like, okay, those were proxies. They were never really good proxies for if you'd be good in the job or not. And I think now that the market is shifting even more into, AI, tech driven, and then the constant pace of change is like, that degree was obsolete the minute you graduated anyway. And I'm not saying people should not get an education. If you can, if you love it, if you want to, get it. It means so much. And also, like, somebody's got to still be there. Like, I love people who are researchers and scientists who are figuring these things out in that, very academically rigorous way. But I think workplaces need both, like, super academic, rigorous kind of thinkers, but we also need people who have been like in the trenches figuring it out, doing the work, who have, worked from that I was cleaning toilets all the way up to I was a VP of something kind of people, like people who have seen what it looks like to be at all levels of the organization. I think that matters and it's missing. But yeah, I spent so much of my career just, coulda, shoulda, woulda. I wish I would have finished this. I wish I would have done that. If only I had. And at some point I just realized like all of the things that I didn't do and the path that I then took is exactly why I'm really good at what I do today. And I wouldn't have that if I had just gone to school, got a degree, got somewhere in middle management and started from there working my way up. But I didn't know that back then.
Yeah. Such a strong message because, I mean, just the other day I was talking to somebody who was like, I wonder if I should go back to school to get a degree in it, but she's been doing the work.
Yes.
Right? She did, like, the degree would do nothing. It may just be something, a piece of paper, like you said, that you can put on your resume, but for her it was like, yeah, but it wasn't even, I just need the piece of paper to qualify me. It was that, oh, maybe I just don't know enough. Ooh. Maybe if I don't try, like if I don't go get the education, then I'll be missing out on something, and then I won't. If I go get the job, then I'll probably be underqualified. There's just like this whole mathematical equation that's happening to qualify yourself, that for you to believe yourself that you're qualified. And it's wild because I've said it over and over again, like, but you're doing the work. Like, you don't need it. You have the experience. You're doing the work. You could be a brain surgeon. Just kidding. You probably need it. But
there's some jobs you should go to college for. Please go to college.
I'm telling everybody, be a brain surgein. Go ahead.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn or whatever, right? Like, it's fine.
No, but like things that don't necessarily require that, we are trying to qualify ourselves through degree or certifications because we don't feel confident. Society tells us that we're not enough. It's just wild to me because it's wild to me, and I say it, but I do it too,
right?
Right?
You have all this time in, but then you're sitting there like, but what about that piece of paper? What if I'm missing something? And I'm like, okay, but what if you're not? I read this book, and I have to figure out what it was called. But the guy in it was thinking about going back for a degree. Like, he was already a journalist, like performing in his field for a really long time, and was like, should I go back to some really prestigious journalism school thing? And his mentor actually came to him and was like, well, what if you couldn't tell anyone about it? Like, what if you could go, but you couldn't tell anyone you'd been there? You couldn't show them your degree. You couldn't do that. Would it still be worth it to you?
Oh, that's a good question.
And that was the thing that made me go, because if I could, I could afford to go back to school. I could figure it out, whatever. But would it matter if I couldn't tell anyone? And if the answer is no,
then you're going for the wrong reasons.
You are going for the wrong reasons. Because again, if you can go back, especially if your employer will pay for it, if you need it to get that next level in the promotion, and again, they're going to create the time and space for you to go, like, get the degree on their dime, figure it out. Like, that's great if you can do that. But if you're only going to get the piece of paper to try and validate yourself, I think there's better ways that we can go about saying like, no, actually, I am an expert in this space, because doing the work for decades still means something. Again, like not everyone's going to look at it and see the value, but the people who matter will.
I think that's so true. So what does it look like for women to choose themselves, especially in a world that often asks them to overachieve or pour into something else before themselves?
Mm-hmm. I think honestly, it's our greatest power. I think if we stop believing the lies and stop falling for it's imposter syndrome. No, it's not. It's society telling me I'm not good enough because I don't have a piece of paper. But I've been doing the job for years. Like when I think about it, it's like, okay, I've been a senior director, a VP, like all titles that on paper I'm not qualified for, but yet I did them and I was successful at them. And then I think about it even in the consulting work that I've done. I'm like, we are literally working with companies that make our world run. Like if you are out and about anywhere today, you've probably passed a company I've worked with, and it's like they are taking my advice because I'm an expert in this space. Yeah. But it's so easy to fall into that trap of like, well, you're not good enough because you don't have a master's degree. I don't care. The CEO is still listening to me. The CTO is listening to what I have to say because I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like, I think sometimes it's when we can take our power back, number one, it's so much better for you, because then you can actually choose, like, do I want to invest in this because it matters to me and where I want to go and the impact I want to leave on this world? Or do I want to say, like, I can do enough? And that's okay for today. Like, we don't have to kill ourselves for any job, for any of the efforts that we're making every single day. We can't. Like, there's just a give and take in that space. So I think the more women can find, like, that deep belief in yourself, the self-respect that says, like, I am good enough just as I am. And believe me, like, this took so long to get to this point. I think probably up until maybe even as close as like a year ago, I still was into all of those things of like, I got to prove myself. I've got to go back to school. I've got to figure these things out. I finally reached whatever point, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting salty and old, where I'm like, look, you can either like me or you don't. And that's totally okay. The world is massive. I don't have to be your bestie. You don't have to listen to anything I have to say if it doesn't resonate with you, and that's okay. But I don't know. I think letting go of some of those things of like, you know, people have to like me. No, they don't. I don't like everybody either. Why would everyone have to like me? But it's hard. It's challenging to find the strength in yourself to say, I'm okay. I'm okay with how I am. There's always room for growth. Like, I can continue to grow in different ways, but I don't have to because I feel like I owe it to someone else. I'm growing for me and for my kids, and that's it. Like, my family, for the impact I want to leave. I'm not doing it because, my boss wants to see it or my company wants to see it. Like, great if they benefit from it. But I don't know. At some point, it's like, choose yourself, because you're the only one that matters at the end of the day.
So when you chose yourself, how did that feel? What was the difference? Like, what was the feeling like for you?
It probably feels like a lot of people who just wander this earth thinking they're amazing. Like, you just show up being like, oh, wait, I actually know what I'm talking about. I absolutely belong in this realm. And I do a really good job at the work that I do. And like, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, like, that's so conceited. Like, how dare she? But you know what? I've earned every single accomplishment I've ever made in my life because I worked for them. I didn't like... My dad got me my first job. So here's like my Nepo baby story. Like, yes, my dad got me my first job. He was college educated. He worked for a construction company. He got me my first job because at the time his budget didn't allow for like a full-fledged administrative person on the job, but he had some budget. So he's like, well, I can pay you less because it was more than my, like, you know, I don't know, mall job or whatever I was working. He's like, I can pay you less because you're not experienced on paper. But he's like, but you can like run a fax machine. You can do Microsoft Word. And I was like, yeah, I can figure out all this stuff. Like, it's fine. So I got my first opportunity because my dad was college educated and he had the ability to hire me. After that, though, every single accomplishment, everything I did was because I put the work in. I showed up. I proved myself time and time again. I did the research. I did the studying. I applied it to every job, and I moved my way up because of like myself. Like, yes, I will always acknowledge that I had a very unfair advantage at the beginning because he got me a job that I was not qualified for. But that's also why I want to change it. Workplaces don't, like, I shouldn't be the exception. We should be willing to give other people a chance just because, like, again, like, I don't know, like, it blows my mind. We're missing out on so much talent and so many capabilities of people who are desperate to be there and doing those jobs because they just don't have a piece of paper. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Do you see like a generational gap, even just from millennials to generation, the Gen Z? Yeah, it's Gen Z, right?
Yeah. Gen X, millennials, Gen Z.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
I know. I'm like, where are we?
Where are we? Do you see in the workforce, do you see women navigate the workforce differently generationally. So, and I would say millennials, and because we're millennials, and I'm curious to see if that level of confidence is either there or not there for Gen Zers. Do you know? Like, have you seen any kind of difference?
The interesting thing generationally is like, I think Gen X was still that like go along to get along generation. They're like, we work hard, we showed up, we burned ourselves out, we kept showing up and doing the job because like that was kind of like after the boomers, it was like that was the playbook. The playbook worked for them. Go to school, get a degree, get a job, and if you do 25 to life, you're going to be set. You can afford your house, you can afford your car, you can have 2.5 kids and a dog, you know, everything that you want was within your reach. Millennials, I think we're in that generation of like, depending on how life played out for you, you could be just as set as that. You could have the house on the hill, the purse, the cars, everything you want, and be doing fine. I think towards like some of the younger millennials and then Gen Z, the narrative, the playbook started to fall apart. The things that were promised no longer worked. And the ways that we have to show up in the workplace are falling apart in front of us. So it's now, how do you convince these people to like show up to the office, to prove yourself, to do all the things when it's like, yeah, but the promise doesn't apply anymore. Back then you could do all the things and have some level of relative success. You could be middle class. It's not working anymore. And I think there's a disconnect of like, how that's playing out and people's lack of empathy to understand, well, why don't people want to come to the office? Why are people pushing back? Or why are people quiet quitting? I was like, maybe it's not quiet quitting. Maybe they're just actually doing the job you hired them to do. And you're just mad that they're not going above and beyond anymore. But let's think about why. Like when there's no promotion opportunities, when there's no opportunities to grow more, when raises are literally like, oh, here's your 2% and no, we're not doing cost of living for the 5th year in a row. It's like, I don't know, maybe think about it. They're barely getting by. They can't afford a home. They can't afford a car. You just got to be like, the logic is there on the table if we want to take a look at it. But and I do think like there's always people in all the generations that are defying those stereotypes. I think there are people in all generations that are very confident in their abilities, that are showing up, especially as women, going like, no, I own this place. It's totally fine. But I've seen people in all generations who are like, I need to keep proving myself. I can't let up. I can't take my foot off the gas. I'm going to fall behind. It's like, well, we're all falling behind. You have to choose your battles of where you're going to spend the time.
Yeah, and I love that. I think one thing about you, and you know, I talked about this, is, you know, something that's unique to the work that you do, especially in your coaching, is allowing for women to see their choices, that they do have a choice, that they don't have to go up to burnout and then deal with those consequences, because burnout and after burnout is health consequences, and it's family falls apart, and it's just aging, and it's all these other negative things, high stress. So I love what you say about even just in your business contemplating life choices. There's choices to be made. And that's pretty liberating in the sense that things are not just happening to you. Easier said than done, right?
100%.
Because we talked about the system and how the system doesn't want you to have choice, especially if you're a woman, especially if you're a woman of color, especially if you're a woman of color, that all these other identity pieces, the choices, it's hard to see that you have choice. But to entertain the fact that I do have a choice, and I can be more, you know, steady in who I am as an individual to help guide me rather than external other things that are guiding me, is such a, I mean, it seems simple, but it's hard to get to. It's hard to see. And we need people like you to remind us.
Yeah.
Of that.
Some of it is like re-tapping back into like your sense of self, the things that guide you as a person, and everybody's values are going to be different, even if generally you're like, oh, integrity. Okay, great. But like, what are the specific things at this point in your life, at this season of life, that matter to you? Like for some of us, like in, you know, mid 40s, like some people are still just starting families right now. Some people's kids are graduating high school and going on to college and having their own kids. Like we're all in different places. So it's like, how do you start to just look at yourself and say, well, what matters to me? What do I want to do with my life at this point? And yes, like reclaiming that power of like, it's really hard to get to that point where you're going to say like, forget it. But also to me, like, as you watch what's going on, the systems are falling apart anyway. Like the risk to me to like take a chance on yourself is far less than it used to be. Because before, like there was reasonable certainty. If you did the right things, you could have a career that could sustain your family. At this point, I'm like, you could do all the right things and still end up like without anything to provide for your family. Yeah. So at this point, it's like, can we take the time to reflect, to understand ourselves, to understand how we make decisions, and to stop getting frozen in those spaces of like, but what if? What if this doesn't go right? What if it does? What if it does and you live a life that you've always wanted? What if it does go right and you're able to make a difference for even one person? Like, that's the thing I tell myself, like, because when I got into like coaching and yoga and stuff, I was like, oh, what if I do a bad job? What if people hate it? But it's like, but what if one person's life changes? And then I said no. Yeah. If I said no and that one person's life didn't change because I was too afraid to try, at this point in life, again, I'm like, maybe it's because I'm salty and I'm like, I'm just going to give it a shot. And again, like, not everyone's going to like me and that's okay. And the inner perfectionist of me dies every time it's not perfect. But also I'm like, okay, maybe you need to go. Maybe it's time for us to move on from you. Yeah. Like, you need to sit down.
So what kind of questions do women need to ask themselves in this space where they're, okay, let's just say, you know, there is someone out there right now who is maybe in their 40s, maybe in their late 30s, maybe even in their closer to 50s. And they're just like, whoa, wait a minute. I've just been kind of a robot in this. I've been functioning, doing the right things, trying to go up this ladder, corporate ladder. And I'm realizing that this isn't fulfilling for me. What kinds of questions does this person need to ask themselves to find that inner wisdom?
I think starting with the end in mind, like, what is the legacy you want to leave? What's the impact you want to have? And for some people, it might be like, maybe you want to be that glass ceiling breaker who's like, I'm going to get to the C-suite. I'm going to open doors for people coming behind me. I'm going to change the system. If that's your path, like, let's get you on it. Let's figure out what that looks like. But if for somebody else who's maybe like, you know, mid-senior career, maybe they're questioning, is this the space? Like, think about it. It's like, okay, what is the legacy you want to live? If it's not this, what is it? Understanding, like, where do you want to go and what does that look like? And then also just thinking about, you know, I think so often it's really easy to just assume like, oh, you know, I'm mid 40s. I've got at least 40 more years ahead of me. I've totally got time. I can figure it out later when I retire. But like, I think the pandemic and so many other things are just that reminder of like, we could have a year. I could have a day. Like, I don't really know what that looks like. And I think even if I never achieve all the things that I hope to, it's like, if I could at least start, again, if I can impact one person, if I can make a little bit of a difference, if I can open one person's mind that the world doesn't have to be this way, like, why not? And again, like, it's hard. And I think starting with that end in mind gives you a way to kind of backtrack into, like, you can start to break it down into steps to figure out how to get there. But you have to figure out, what do you want? What do you want for you? And I think that's the other thing. What do you want for you? Not for the world, because they said you need the car, you need the bag, whatever. Like, if you want it and you can afford it and you're not bankrupting your family, have whatever you want. Yeah. But are you just chasing those things because, again, it's an external validation? Is it the status symbol that you're after? Or is it really because you enjoy the thing? Like, if you enjoy your Prada bag, get the Prada bag. Like, I'm not saying don't. But also, if you're just doing it to be like, oh, I want so-and-so to notice me in the office, well, then either are you committing to that lifestyle and so that way of being, or not? Like, and again, if that's the choice that you're making, I am here for every woman to have that choice, whether you want to be the CEO or whether you want to stay home with your babies and raise them. But you've got to make that choice for you, because if you don't, you're going to get to the end of your life and then you face regret. But yeah, you know, I mean, that's the thing that's in our control, is like, what do I want for me as a human being?
Yeah, no, that's a big question. That's a big question, because oftentimes people take a pause and they're like, what do I want? I think there are some that get to that point and they're already really numb. Yeah. They can't even feel what it is that they want. So that question can be really tough. How do they tap into that?
I love using things like yoga practices or other kind of meditation or more holistic things. So whether it's, you know, I want to go to a sound bath, or maybe I want to do yoga, or maybe it's even, I just want to go hiking in the mountains. I want to get out and get in touch with nature. Or even, you know what, I'm going to go lay in the grass in my front yard and just literally touch grass and just breathe and stare into the sky. I think giving yourself the space to be away from the day-to-day, to be away from the distractions. And again, it doesn't have to be some expensive, you know, I'm going to, you know, the Bahamas to spend a week. It can literally be like, I'm going to leave my phone in the house. I'm going to go walk out in the front yard and lie down in the grass and just stare into the sky for a minute. I think the more that we can give ourselves the space to just be with ourselves, we start to create the space for those kind of answers to come in for us.
Yeah.
Because I think in our hearts, we all know what we really want. I think we've just gotten so used to shutting that down because the world told us, well, this is what you should want. You should want to have babies. You should want to have, a husband. You should want to have this type of house, this type of car. And again, like you can have all of those things, but also like, is that everything you want? If so, great. You're probably happy and you're probably not listening to this podcast.
Good for you.
But if it's something that speaks to you, and again, like you could have all of these external markers of success and still feel like you want something more. And it doesn't mean like, I'm not asking anybody to relinquish their life. Like you can still do that something more. And maybe it's, I want to volunteer. Maybe it's, I want to do more with my church or my religious, organization. Maybe it's, I just want to do more with my kids in their school. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I think that's the other thing is like, how do we start structuring our lives that creates that kind of harmony for the things that we want in the ways that still allow us to survive? Because at the end of the day, we all still got to pay our mortgage. I get it.
That's right.
Sometimes you got to keep that day job, but you've got to get the right day job that allows you the flexibility to do the other things that actually really matter to you.
Yeah. So if you're going to do that, the part that's the survival part, then you want to balance it with also I can carve out space for creativity or just for myself. And I love what you're saying too, because when I think about women who are in the place of, okay, what the hell do I do now? I don't know. And I'm asking myself, what do I want? I don't know what I want. The simple act of just coming back into your body to feel, even if it's like grass or if it's nature or yoga or just to feel your body, then you'll naturally tap into your inner conversation with yourself. It'll be a little bit easier. I'm sure it's not going to come right off the bat, but for you, because you did yoga, you started doing yoga, and then you got certified for it. But you were able to kind of go back into your body and ask yourself those questions. And I think that's such a key thing to recognize. I'm not even in my body right now. Like I'm not even.
When
I'm
I burned
just
out,
functioning, I
was somewhere else.
Yes.
I was not embodied. Well, and that was the first thing I did. When I burned out, I actually called up a friend of mine who I'd met through the yoga certification program, and she does this restorative partner yoga work. And it is very much about like, because it's hands-on with someone else. Like somebody else is like moving you through these yoga poses. They are present in that space with you. Yeah. And just after that first session, the feeling of actually being back into my physical body was game-changing for me.
Wow.
It gave me the space to start thinking about, okay, I've burned out, now what? Do I have to leave my job? Do I need to find something else? Do I need to take a longer time off? But being back in my body helped me understand, okay, where are things hurting? Where is stuff not working? Because I think our body is the sign to us. Again, like when you're burning out, when you're ignoring the signs of perimenopause or menopause and your hair is falling out and you can't see straight and you're getting dizzy every time you stand up, it's like, those are signs your body is telling you something is not right. You're dysregulated. Something is not functioning for you. So sometimes it's literally just having the space to be back in your body. And maybe it's just a journaling practice. I'm going to write a couple things I'm grateful for. Maybe it's I'm just going to write whatever comes to mind, 2 minutes, and I shut the journal and I put it away. But creating that space for yourself to start to understand like, well, what is important to me? How do I want to start solving for this? And again, it's not just a one and done thing. For me, this is literally decades in the works of contemplating life's choices. Like that's my whole life. I've always been like, what am I doing? Who am I? Why am I here? What's going on?
I love that you talk about in season, because it doesn't, the decision that you make right now doesn't need to be the decision forever.
Yes.
Which I love.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have to make these like, I need a 25-year plan. No, you don't. Like the world is changing so fast.
6 months.
Well,
5 months.
You never know. Like if your kid like all of a sudden makes, some star basketball team or gymnastics team or whatever, all of a sudden like the plans that you had might go this way because you want to support their dreams. Or, like heaven forbid something bad happens in the family and all of a sudden you've got to pivot this way. Like, yeah. And the seasons, again, like for the friends of mine whose, their kids are grown, they're already empty nesters. I was like, number one, how? Because I was like, you're my age and your kids are graduating.
I know, you're talking about kids that are in high school. I'm like,
exactly.
What?
It's wild. But like for them, you know what, like their season of life might be, I'm going to double down on work. I'm going to do more. I'm going to climb that corporate ladder because their kids are on their own. They've got time and space. For somebody else who started a family more recently, like I was like, my kids are still, elementary, junior high school age, where it's like, I might not be able to double down on a career right now because I still want to be present for them in this moment. But again, like the seasons shift and change. Like it can be okay saying, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I'm going to take, I'm not going to be a leader. Maybe I'm going to step back and be an individual contributor. I'm going to work my 9 to 5. I'm going to do a great job because that's still my reputation. But you know what? Maybe that's okay for now because this is what I need to have balance. You can always work your way back up. You can always do something else.
Yeah.
Just later.
Just later. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't have to do it all today.
Right. That's so funny too, because even just women of color that have their own practices to like come back to their self, it has to also be perfect too, because it's like, well, then what kind of, like, we're constantly judging ourselves up against everything. So if I meditate, I do this even myself, like, did I really meditate though? Did I actually take like time to meditate?
Did I meditate long enough?
I did it for 2 minutes.
Should it have been 10?
So I'm horrible. So then I'll, do the self-talk. I'm horrible at meditating, or I'm horrible at self-care. Do I even deserve this? Because I'm not actually doing it the proper way, or the way that actually gives me the enlightenment or whatever.
Exactly. I haven't found enlightenment in my first 2-minute meditation session.
Yeah, but like it's the level of criticism that we give ourselves too. I'm sure there's a lot of that too. So once you come back into, and this has happened to me, I wonder if it's happened for you, but when you came back into your body, did you hear all the thoughts that you were giving yourself, the ways that you were criticizing yourself?
Yeah, I think there was a good solid period right after I burned out where it was like, oh, this was probably a me problem. I should have done more. I should have asked for more help. I should have been more clear on what I needed. Yeah. I should have done more. I should have said no to that thing. But at some point I realized I was like, okay, yeah, sure, maybe. Like in some cases, like there is personal accountability. Like you do have to be accountable for yourself and your actions. Like everything has consequences. But for part of it, it was also like, no, like I was caring so deeply about work that the people around me didn't care about. And for better or for worse, like no judgment on anyone or anything. Like it just happens. And it's like, okay, wait, like some of this wasn't me. And some of it was like I had to be getting okay with giving myself the grace to be like, it is what it is. Like it's not a judgment on me as a failure as a person. That was the other thing. When I burned out, I was like, you have failed as a person. You can't hack it. You're not adaptable enough. You're not agile enough. Like what's wrong with you? And I was like, wait a minute, but I exist in a system that literally is existing to burn me out in a lot of ways. Like some of it was coming to terms with the fact that it was okay that this happened, and that it doesn't have to own me forever. And part of speaking out about burning out is I was not going to let this shame me into feeling like I was less of a person. And as soon as I started speaking on it, the number of people who came out of the woodwork going, me too, but I couldn't say it because I was worried I'd lose my job. I was worried I'd lose opportunities. I had reached the point where I was like, really, if they're going to fire me for talking about my experience, and never in a negative light, I'm not out here being like, oh, it was my boss, my whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm just talking about this is my human experience. This is what I went through and how I'm recovering from it. Like, okay, if I lose my job, like that's literally really the worst that could happen to me. Yeah, it's like I can move on to something else. But to me, it's like we need to talk about this so we can help other people not burn out, and to help those who have to work through it. Like we have to be there for each other. Yeah, for them to see themselves as well, and know that it wasn't a them thing. Oh yeah, because you can especially be a high performer. Yes, we can be high performers. Yeah. And still burn out. Like that's the thing, is like being a high performer and getting, exceptional on all your stuff, it doesn't protect you from that. You can still burn out even doing your best. You can still burn out doing your worst. Like it happens. Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much for your words of wisdom, and just even the pause, the allowing. I have a few friends in my mind as I'm talking to you. We just recently had a conversation about, I feel like my life is falling apart. I feel like things are feeling unstable. Things are being ripped out underneath me. And it's not even, it's just they're coming to some realization that they're in an unfulfilled position. Mm-hmm. And so it's not really that things are falling apart. Just for them it is, because it's the things that I knew that I was supposed to do, or the things that I thought was going to give me stability doesn't feel that stable. And so this conversation, I think, is going to be so helpful for just the few women that I know, but I'm sure for many women out there, and women of color. I think that there's a big key importance here that that there's a systemic issue that we are constantly fighting up against, and to reconcile with that rather than just reconciling with yourself and saying that you're less than. So So I appreciate you so much for chatting with me about this, and contemplating life choices. So if you're looking, are you taking in clients right now? Okay. So if you're in this point in your life right now, if you're struggling with me,
let's hold hands. Hold hands with Heather MacDonald, Contemplating Life Choices. We'll put a link as well with this episode. But thank you. I love you. I love you too. Thank you.
This was so great.
Yeah.